I am so stoked to talk to you guys about my experience playing Space Marine 2. I woke up the other day and I was getting my morning situated before training, and for those of you who don't know, I am currently at Lackland Air Force Base for the third time in my career, cross-training into security forces. So hoo-ah to all of my fellow defenders out there in the world's greatest Air Force. But as I was mentioning, I got a pretty unexpected email from Focus Entertainment with a review copy for Space Marines 2. Needless to say, I installed it immediately, and after training, I decided to put about 2 hours into it and then several more on and off stream. Now, before we get started, I want to preface this entire video by saying that in no way is this a sponsored video from Focus or the people who made the game. And even if it was, I'm not going to sway my opinion for dollar signs or company favor. We got enough of that coming from other gaming outlets who give good reviews like Candy on Halloween. So just my thoughts on the game with the time that I've put in so far. And as far as those go, I am excited to share with you my first impressions for those of you who might still be on the fence about getting Space Marine 2. One more thing before we get started, I just want to ask that if you guys like the video, please consider dropping a like, and if you're so inclined while you're down there, drop a subscription to the channel. It really helps out a ton as I continue my grind on this lovely platform. And with that, let's talk Space Marine 2. Also, I should add that there won't be any major spoilers in this video. What you're seeing is simply the first mission of the game, and I'll show some multiplayer as well later on in the video, so don't worry too much on those fronts. Now, getting into the campaign and gameplay, which is what everyone is wondering about. This game really took me back to 2006 when I first booted up Gears of War for the first time. Those beefy characters, the violent executions, gunplay, and even enemy types at some points were all bringing back very fond memories. One thing I didn't expect, however, was just how melee focused this game is compared to other action shooters, with most moments of the game feeling more like a hack and slash. Now, I may be oversimplifying it a bit, but each melee weapon does have combos you can do where pressing a button and holding after 2, 3, and 4 clicks all have different finishers. It makes for a bit of variety while you're killing endless hordes of Tyranids, and yes, that is the first time I've ever had to say that enemy name, so if I did say it wrong, please forgive me. This is my first Warhammer game ever. Another mechanic I was surprised to see but absolutely loved was a dodge trigger and a parry mechanic, and if executed will leave an enemy vulnerable or outright eliminate that enemy if small enough. Also, adding on to that vulnerable state, you will see a small crosshair from time to time appear on the screen. When that happens, clicking the shoot button will give a small animation where your character does a quick shot, dealing a good chunk of damage. The combat is definitely satisfying, and you can tell a lot of care went into making it smooth and responsive. Speaking of which, the gameplay you are watching was played at a 4K resolution on ultra settings for PC with a 4090 Strix graphics card and a Zen 9 CPU, and I was surprised to see that I was pulling 80 to 100 frames consistently. So optimization does seem to be there. Only a couple game crashes over the time I spent slaying for the Emperor. All that being said, I completed 2 more main campaign missions, and I can tell you that the tempo consistently picks up with more enemy variety and denser mobs, so honing your melee skills is necessary to recouping health when you do not have a medkit. Moving over to multiplayer, and boy, this was not what I was expecting it to be. The first thing being how quick the time to kill really was, even for the more tanky classes, because running into a 2v1 can have you respawning pretty fast. And I learned pretty quick that this game does not play like Gears even in the slightest. I tried out a few different classes, and I found one that I really liked was the sniper class, which I found ironic because leading up to the game's release, most people had written it off completely because of some creators had deemed it pretty useless, which is simply not the case, at least as far as multiplayer goes. I played a few games of Annihilation, which is Space Marines 2 version of Team Deathmatch, and I found it to be pretty enjoyable. Nothing out of the realm of what I've experienced before in multiplayer shooters, but discovering what classes I should take on opposed to ones I shouldn't was a good learning experience, and enough for me to tell you that playing as a team really matters in this game. Moving forward into the content roadmap for Space Marine 2, which lays out what we can expect as far as DLC goes for the game over the next year, and this includes new cosmetics, more PvE missions for operations, more PvP game modes, new enemies, a prestige mode, and a whole lot more. And I gotta say, guys, this feels like we got a game from 2008, but in 2024, because this is what DLC looked like back then. Call me old-fashioned, call me crazy, but this is what it looks like when a studio puts pride in their game. Given what we've received in 2024 and some titles in 2023, Space Marine 2 is incredibly well received, at least as far as I'm concerned. Now, the last thing we're going to go over, and I promise we're almost done, just hang in there a little bit longer, is the operations themselves. This, of course, are missions that are said to run alongside the main campaign, and I didn't know how cool this would be until I saw it in practice. In this game mode, you select a class to play as, progress through various stages, and during this one I played, I found out that we are playing as the team that set off the big explosion at the end of the first mission you play in the main campaign, and I found that to be just really cool seeing the other side of the coin there. All in all, guys, Space Marines 2 is an awesome game to see come into a gaming industry that's so hell-bent on making so many live service games without the real follow-through they need to make players really want to jump in. And it wasn't really my goal of the video to give the game a rating at the end of it because I simply wanted to share my thoughts, but personally, I think Space Marine 2 is well deserving of at least an 8.2 out of 10. It's fun with friends, it's fun online, it's fun alone, the holy trinity that many games cannot pull off too often. Drop your comments down below if you're planning on getting Space Marine 2 or if you took a bite out of the early access. Let me know your thoughts on the game, and don't forget to drop a sub. I appreciate you guys watching. This one was for the Emperor.